Hello and welcome to Mr. Wiley Teaches Math. Today we're going to look at terms in geometry. The purpose of this lesson is to establish a common language for different geometric figures. The very first and simplest is a point. A point simply is a location, and a point gets a dot to show the location and a capital letter beside it. We'll call that point A. So if I were to write that, I would simply write point, which means a position, and its name A. Usually, whenever possible, it goes the position and then the name. Sometimes we put it in a different location. It becomes a little bit more difficult to do that, so we'd name it directly beside it as close as we could. In that case, that would be point or position B. A line is a straight path of points that extends forever in both directions. So we're going to draw a line on here. We're going to give it a couple points. We're not going to give it any points on the ends. Instead, on the ends, to denote that it goes on forever, we're going to put an arrow. And let's call that point C and point D. Because in many cases, we're going to name the line according to the points closest to the ends. So even if I had a point E in the center, it's not going to become part of the naming process for a line. So we would call this, if we were going to write this out, we would use a short form symbol. We would use C and D, or DC, either way is fine. Alphabetical order would be better. And then the symbol to show that it's a line, right over top. Straight line with two arrows on the end. And that means line CD or line DC. The other thing that could happen, I'll just draw another line on. So we might have a small case letter, small lowercase letter, and we would call that line M. Often see that for mirrors when we're talking about reflections, a line of reflection. So it might also get line of R. A ray, that we're going to look at next, is a part of a line that begins at one endpoint and extends forever in one direction. So we're going to give ourselves one endpoint. We're going to draw it out. We're going to show that it extends forever by putting an arrow on the end. And we'll give it another point. You can even give it a couple points along the line. We only need two again. We were at E, so let's go F, G, and H. So we actually have a couple of rays in this one. We have the one that starts at F and goes to H. So we could call that ray FH. Or we could use a short form symbol for that, and we could call it F and H. We're going to start with the same straight line over top, but it extends out past H, so that's where we're going to put the arrow, to be very careful that it goes in that direction. When I put the middle point in, I also made another ray, GH. So I'm going to write that out. It would be ray GH. And again, start with the GH, show that it's a ray with a symbol on top. So using these and these symbols up here saves me a lot of time instead of writing out the word each time. A line segment is a part of a line that has two endpoints. We'll call it I and J. The 2 points on the ends, endpoints. So this is line segment. So I want to write it out in words, IJ. Or I can use a short form using the two endpoints, I and J. And just a straight line over top. No arrows this time, because it doesn't extend forever in either direction. An angle is next. An angle is formed when we have two rays, two line segments, or two lines coming together. So I'll do it with a ray and a line segment, and they have a common point. So I give myself a point here, called K, L, and M. This has a few different names that it could go by. It's definitely an angle. It could be angle K, L, M, or it could be angle MLK, or because it's a very simple angle and there's only one coming off, we could also just call it by the vertices, by the center, where the two lines join together, could call it angle L. Short form for this looks almost like a greater than. I put an arc across it just to remind myself that it's not, and call it angle KLM. This would be angle MLK, and this would be angle L, naming it by the vertice. So that should have been a K. Just about to go back and say that you notice that the vertice is in the center of each one, LL, or if it's a simple angle all by itself. If I'd made this a little bit more complex and had a whole bunch of angles coming off, just calling it angle N at this point wouldn't be great, because I have one angle N, two angle N's, three angle N's, four angle N's, and that's even before I start combining them, saying that's the angle N, or that is, or three of them together. So we can only use this form. It's a very simple, hey, this is angle L right here. The last one we're going to look at today is a triangle. This triangle has three sides. I'm not going to draw any specific type of angle today. And we're just going to name the ends. So I would say N, O, P, Q. So this is triangle OPQ. Or I can mix up the order. It could be QPO, OPQ, doesn't really matter. And the short form, if I want to save myself for writing triangle, it's just simply draw a triangle, make it as equilateral as possible, and then OPQ. Alright, that's the end of this lesson, Terms in Geometry. Please make sure to check the class website for additional handouts and the assignment.